Let's look at collecting data, and the first thing we need to look at is some of the jargon that goes with this. Okay, so these are words that have a mathematical meaning, and effectively with data it falls into two categories. Okay, one is categorical data, the other one is numerical data. So categorical data will give normally a question whereby you'll give probably a noun as a response. So for example, it might be what's your favourite pet, what's your favourite colour, somewhere where you might have been on holiday, things like that, where you're going to give a word as an answer that doesn't have a number attached to it. The other type of data you can collect is a number or numerical data. So these all have numbers, and these might be things such as how many pets do you have, how many holidays have you been on, how many favourite colours do you have. So we can split all data up into one of these two categories. Typically you get asked about categorical data, and then rather than asking you about numerical data, they'll ask you about the types of numerical data. So when you give a numerical data response, it'll be one of two types. It'll either be what we call discrete, or it'll be continuous. Now, discrete means that it's limited in the sense that it has to be a whole number answer. So this could be something such as, how many siblings do you have? How many cars does your family own? How many TVs in your house? How many beds in your house? So for all of those answers, your answer is going to be a whole number. You're going to say, oh, I've got 3 brothers and a sister, or I've got 6 TVs, or I've got 2 cars. So all of those numbers are a whole number. With continuous data, these are typically things that we measure with some sort of tool. So it could be like a ruler or a scale or something like that. And you can have a fraction or a decimal as your answer. So these are things such as your height, your weight, the speed of something, anything on those lines where your weight, your height, which might be 165.6 centimeters. It could be your weight, which might be 32.5 kilos, things along those lines. Okay, so let's look at a set of data. In this case, this is from a Year 7 class of 25 students, and these students were all asked how many brothers and sisters they had, so how many siblings, okay? So you can see here that some students have got no siblings. In other words, they're an only child. Some of them have got up to 5 siblings, okay, which means they're a family of 6 children, okay? What type of data is this, okay? So it's a number, so it must be numerical, and out of the 2 types of numerical, whether it be discrete or continuous, this is discrete because they're all whole numbers, okay? And they can only be whole numbers. You can't have 2.5 sisters, for example, okay? So the type of data here, we know that it is numerical, and we know that it is discrete. Okay. From this data, we then can create what we call a frequency table, okay? Now, a frequency table is going to have a couple of columns. The first column will be related to the type of question you've been asked, okay? So this one says number of brothers and sisters, okay? And you can see that I've used an abbreviation for each one of those words. The second one is tally, so this is where we count up how many that are in there, and the third one is frequency, which is the tally count put into that whole number. Okay? But we can fill this in. Now, what we know here is we look here and we look what's the lowest value and what's the highest value, and then we can make our list here. So we see the lowest value is 0, and then we can go all the way up to 5. So let's just fill in our table. Okay, so I filled in the first couple of rows. So this just sort of show you how I would run through this. So here we're looking for all of the people who are given 2 siblings as their answer. So we're going through our line up here. And as you'll notice, as I cross these off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we do our 5 like this. Now, as I've crossed them off, you'll notice that I'm not obliterating them like that. I'm not colouring them in so you can't read them anymore, okay? The way I've crossed them off is that you can still read the number underneath my cross off, okay? And I think that that's an important little way of organising your work, so that you've always got that ability to look back and see what you've done and be able to read it. Once you start colouring things in, I think you get into some territory where, what's the benefit of that? Because there's certainly a downside to it. Okay, so let's fill in the remainder of our grid. Okay, so now what we can do is we can add up all of these numbers, and that will give us a total here at the bottom, okay? So 1 and 2 is 3, and 3 is 6, and 6 and 6 is 12, and 8 and 4 is 24. Okay, now what that tells us is that I've made a mistake somewhere, okay? Because there were 25 students in the class, so this number here has to be 25. And if I look back here at all of the ones, I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ones. So that answer here is actually 9, and that total here should be 25. So that adding up of the frequency column checks your work to make sure that you haven't made an error, and if you have made an error, you can then go back and check it, because you haven't obliterated everything when you crossed it out. You've just crossed it out, and you can still read it after that.